welcome to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Happy Tuesday out there, everybody. And we got a lot to get to here for today's severe weather risk, tomorrow's severe weather risk, and looking here up to the potentially historic blizzard across the northern portions here of the country as we head through the week. So let's get right into it. The Storm Prediction Center's Day 1 categorical outlook here, they have upgraded parts of central and western portions of Iowa here to a level 4 of 5, a moderate risk. This does include here Des Moines, Iowa, getting back toward Omaha, Nebraska, and areas surrounding that here around Ames, Iowa. So do got to be on guard here in that area for potentially long and very long track and a very strong tornadoes as we head here into the evening hours here this evening. But then an enhanced risk here surrounding it down toward Kansas City, getting up here towards Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and even into far southern portions of Minnesota, eastern Nebraska, maybe around the Lincoln area, and then getting down here into around the Wichita area. Then another enhanced risk down toward the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, getting down to the south here toward Austin, Texas here, with a slight risk of severe weather across most of the state here of Arkansas that was hard hit yesterday. Also some huge hail here into the portions of Oklahoma. They're in risk again here for a slight risk of severe weather around Oklahoma City, Tulsa, getting down toward Lawton, Oklahoma, Joplin, Missouri, getting up towards Kirksville, Missouri, Dubuque, Iowa, La Crosse, Wisconsin here, getting up toward the Dells. Then a marginal risk of severe weather covering around that, even up toward the Green Bay area, far northern Wisconsin, Memphis, getting into Peoria, Illinois, and potentially here down and close to the Jackson, Mississippi area here as well. Looking at this here tornado outlook here for today, significant Hatch 10 and 15% tornado risk here across central and western and especially northwest Iowa, centered around the Des Moines area, back toward Omaha, maybe Sioux Falls. You got to watch this here, kind of inching its way down toward the Kansas City area, maybe just to the north of there, significant tornado risk. But they are in a 5% tornado risk here today, and then another large 5% tornado risk here encompassing the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Texarkana, Little Rock here once again, Conway, Jonesboro area, and then getting down here into portions of Shreveport, Louisiana, maybe toward the Baton Rouge area here, Alexandria, Louisiana, and west of Jackson, Mississippi, and just west here of Memphis as well. Looking at the wind risk here for today, a significant 45% and 30% hatched wind risk here of 75 mile per hour winds, hurricane force or stronger across this area in central Iowa, Des Moines, getting back toward Kansas City, Omaha, in that risk. But a general here 15 and 30% risk across some of these, slight and enhanced risk zones, and then a 5% risk here in the marginal risk zone surrounding that. And then the hail risk, 2 inches or larger hail is possible here with a hatched hail risk here from southern central portions here of Texas through Oklahoma, Kansas, and all the way up here into southern portions here of Minnesota. So across much of the upper Midwest, getting down here into the central and southern plains, a hatched 2%, a hatched 2-inch or larger diameter hail is possible, and even likely up here into the 30% and 45% hatched areas here across western and northwest Iowa, especially here in that zone. Then as we head into tomorrow, a very large here enhanced risk zone of severe weather extends for much of Indiana, eastern and southern portions of Illinois, western Kentucky, middle and western Tennessee, much of the state here of Mississippi, north central Louisiana, much of Arkansas, and southeastern portions here of Missouri. This does include Paducah, Indianapolis, maybe up towards South Bend, getting up here and toward the Peoria, Illinois area, Memphis, Tennessee, maybe getting over toward Nashville here, just around the Louisville area here on the edge of that, and then Jackson, Mississippi here, Tupelo, Little Rock once again, and then here Jonesboro getting down here towards Shreveport with a slight risk surrounding that here up toward just the Chicago metro area, getting up toward Milwaukee and Kalamazoo and Lansing, Michigan potentially here, western portions here of Ohio, and getting over toward Crossville, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, and then getting down here into Tuscaloosa and Birmingham and New Orleans here as well, and also covering portions of east central Texas. Now tomorrow's significant hatch tornado risk is a 10% hatch tornado risk here across much of the center of the country. This is a large zone from central and southern Illinois into central and southwestern portions of Indiana, western Kentucky and Tennessee, also north central here, Mississippi, northern portions here of Louisiana, much of your east and central portions here of Arkansas, and central and east central portions and southeastern portions here of Missouri, with a general 2 and 5% risk here surrounding that here. The 5% risk getting up toward the Milwaukee and Chicago areas, and just here around the Indianapolis area, and into southwestern Michigan here as well. Then a significant 30% hatched wind risk as we head into tomorrow here, with 75-mile-per-hour winds or stronger yet again. This is including Nashville, Memphis, getting up here into Paducah, near the Indianapolis area, maybe just to your south, just west here of Louisville. And then north and east here of Shreveport, Little Rock, Jonesboro, and down towards Tupelo and into Jackson, Mississippi here as well, with a general 15 and 30% risk here around that. And then a 15% hatched hail risk here across the Little Rock area, Jonesboro, getting up toward Paducah, Memphis, Tennessee, just near the Jackson and Tupelo areas, and in toward the Shreveport area here as well. That is for tomorrow, with a general 5 and 15% risk around that here as well, with a little 5% risk here into the portions of east central Pennsylvania as well as we head into our Wednesday. Why are we seeing this here for today? Dew points will be surging well up into the upper Midwest here. We'll have dew points along this warm front here into south central Iowa, north central Illinois, getting into southeastern portions here of Nebraska today, late this afternoon, into the lower 60s, just north of that here in the mid 50s, and then farther north here into the 40s here. So you can clearly see where that warm front will be. Soupy air mass well to the south in this very large warm sector of the storm. Dew points will be well into the 60s to near 70 down into Texas. So these will also be efficient rainfall producers here as well, and be efficient lightning producers with all this energy in the atmosphere. And that in turn, look at the instability here in the atmosphere. The convective available potential energy here, very high to extreme values, especially across the central portions here of the country, from east central Kansas getting down to central and eastern Oklahoma, down into central and north central Texas here. Even some decent values here into western portions of Missouri, getting into Iowa. If you were in Iowa with that significant tornado risk here, the values would be around 2,000 to 2,500, but with a lot more wind shear up here. A lot less wind shear here to the south into Texas, but a lot more instability. We could be pushing around 4,000 plus joules per kilogram. There could be areas into Oklahoma and Kansas that could be, at least on this sounding, showing up to 5,000 joules per kilogram. Now that is extreme amounts of instability, and if we can break that cap here in the Kansas and Oklahoma, some very explosive thunderstorms will be expected as we head into the afternoon and evening. Now, the only limiting factor for this here is there is a cap on the atmosphere, kind of along that warm front here, kind of like a steel wall along that warm front here with that cap, kind of a lot of not really a big temperature inversion here, just kind of, warm air on the surface, and then you got warm air aloft, and it's kind of preventing those tall, those very large updrafts for those thunderstorms. We saw a thunderstorm in southeastern Oklahoma yesterday reach 55,000 feet tops here with some of these thunderstorms, and that is about 10 to 10.5 miles up in the atmosphere, folks. So those are some massive thunderstorms. We even got reports of some baseball and potentially even softball size hail down into southeastern Oklahoma. I believe the town was Atoka, so some very, very large hail, some giant hail down in those areas, and with those very tall thunderstorm tops. If we can bust through this cap, especially with all this extreme instability into east central portions of Kansas down into Oklahoma, yes, then we will definitely see some explosive storms with some big hail here as we head into today. Also in the mixed layer, some pretty high values here of a cap across portions of central Iowa, but with that cold front incoming, this will kind of undercut that cap and kind of get that cap to lift off and off the atmosphere to get these storms rocking and rolling, especially into the Iowa area here as this warm front continues to surge north into Wisconsin and southern Minnesota. A lot of wind shear here today, and then once this wind shear kind of pushes closer here into these areas and overlap, we're going to see here a lot of the caps start to erode as we head into late this afternoon and this evening, and that will really get these thunderstorms to go with a speed maximum here pushing into portions of western Kansas, portions of Nebraska, getting up here into the Dakotas and into Minnesota, and that will help as well. Look at these supercell composite numbers. I don't remember a time here, any recent time, that we've seen values this high and widespread in nature here across much of Iowa, into portions of east central portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, even some values down here into Texas, but then even into Illinois here with time, northern central portions here of Missouri, getting down to Arkansas, Louisiana. We just have a huge area, and the highest values are centered around the moderate risk zone here in Iowa, down into portions of central and eastern Kansas, and down into central Oklahoma, around the Omaha area, getting into east central portions of Kansas. Values are pushing up on the higher end of the scale. And if you could imagine, the significant tornado parameter is also very high. This is as high as you can get on the tornado parameter. I mean, folks, we are seeing 9s and 10s out of 10s for the significant tornado parameter here around the Omaha area, even getting down here towards Wichita and Topeka, Kansas. So if we can get these thunderstorms to go, a significant or even a few significant long-tracked violent tornadoes here can be likely as we head into the afternoon here, into the evening hours. We could have nighttime violent tornadoes across this zone, especially into Iowa here, where we have that moderate risk and that enhanced risk here as well. I took a sounding from near the Omaha, Nebraska area. Look at this sickle-shaped here, or just this curvature on this hodograph. I mean, this is impressive. Shoots way up into the atmosphere here and kind of curves out. That is a very indicative sign of a classic supercell. Does show a possible hazard type of just a tornado, but I do think a PDS tornado, a very large, violent tornado, is possible in these areas here. And look at the Cape values. Mixed layer here around 3,500. And then you got surface Cape here around up to around 3,100, D Cape over 1,000. So at the very least, these thunderstorms could be producing 80+ mile per hour wind gusts, some very large to giant hail, and then here's some strong, long tracked and violent tornadoes as well, with winds out of the south-southeast at the surface, and then southwesterly here as we get a few thousand feet up, and the speed in the atmosphere here does increase a little bit as well. And then here, this is near the Des Moines area, still a possible hazard tag as well of tornado, but this very well could be a PDS tornado, a long track violent tornado as well. This hodograph goes even higher up in the atmosphere. We can just show you how tall these thunderstorm tops can be here. You can see a little bit of a cap here in this area, but that will break through here as you head up into the upper parts of the atmosphere. Winds will be out of the south, shifting to the southwest. Once that speed maximum does come in, it will help. Look at the D Cape here on the Des Moines sounding, over 1,100 joules per kilogram, and I mean that is supportive of 90 mile per hour wind gusts. So these storms today, if they can develop, as here some of these models show, they do mean business. So do have multiple ways to get warnings, whether it's on TV, a weather radio, your devices such as a phone, a tablet, do have multiple ways to get warnings. Call your relatives here if you live in Iowa and portions of northeastern portions of Kansas, northwestern portions of Missouri, or east central portions here of Nebraska. Call them and tell them tornadoes are possible today. Some strong, violent tornadoes are possible today, and do here have a watch out for the weather. Even if you live farther south here into the central and southern plains, do not let your guard down, because significant tornadoes are still possible, just not likely in those areas. Now let's look at this here on the radar reflectivity. You can see here storms will be quiet late this afternoon, but once that cap breaks, we'll start to see initiation around east central portions of Nebraska, northwest Iowa, and these storms will grow upscale into embedded supercells embedded into a QLCS line, and then a squall line will develop as it grows upscale further into central portions of Iowa, tailing its way down here once that cap breaks, potentially here into central and eastern Kansas. And that will race eastward here across Iowa with potentially hurricane force wind gusts of 75 or 80 mile per hour or stronger across these zones here. And this will start to fall apart as it kind of outruns the better thermodynamic and kinematic here profiles in the atmosphere as we head into Wednesday morning. So, and then these thunderstorms may pose a stronger, maybe small hail risk or a marginal wind risk in northern Illinois, northern and central portions of Missouri as we head through time. Tomorrow is another beast. We have dew points going all the way up here into northern portions of Michigan, east central Wisconsin in the low to mid 60s, some upper 60s to low 70 dew points down here into Arkansas, Louisiana, here east central Texas, Mississippi, up toward the Memphis area, and even Paducah having some upper 60 dew points. And that will support some here decent instability values. Once again, we could be pushing around 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram down into east central Texas, getting up here into portions of southern and southeastern Missouri around the foothills there, and then around Little Rock here around 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Even some instability getting up into Illinois around the Chicago area as well, pushing around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram in those areas. Now, not much of a cap, if any, on the atmosphere tomorrow here. Once that cold front does sweep through, we're going to see some very intense here severe weather as we head into tomorrow yet again. And here, not much here in the mix layer here either. So with you have the speed maximum moving across Iowa here into the overnight hours tonight and then to tomorrow, you can expect just ahead of that some very intense weather here across Arkansas, Illinois, getting up into Missouri, Indiana, portions of western and middle Tennessee, western Kentucky, and getting down here into Mississippi, Louisiana, and east central Texas here as well. And that will continue to push east here as we head into Wednesday evening and into early Thursday. The supercell composite value is pretty decent across here portions of Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri, western Tennessee, getting into Mississippi, north central Louisiana, east central Texas, and couple that with a significant tornado parameter with some highest values across southeastern portions of Missouri, around the foothills there, getting over towards Paducah, getting down to Little Rock once again, still in the crosshairs for some significant EF2 or stronger type tornadoes as we head into tomorrow. This is a sounding near the Ozarks here in Missouri, and it does show a PDS tornado tag with kind of a classic supercell here structure to that hodograph. It shoots up into the atmosphere and kind of curves very quickly. And here you could have decape up to 930, so we could have wind gusts here in excess of 75 miles an hour at the very least here with these storms. Could have hurricane force wind gusts here. Mixed layer cape over 2,000, surface based cape here up to around 3,200, so some very high cape values here. Again, a little bit of a cap, but they should be able to break through very quickly as this cold front comes in here. Winds out of the south here and at the surface, coming out of the west-southwest and the southwest here a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere, and you got that turning here to produce that tornado threat as we head into tomorrow. Now, a few storms may be ongoing here tomorrow and portions here of the Tennessee and Ohio Valley areas into the lower Missouri Valley, but those will start to kind of weaken or just re-intensify as they push to the northeast. But more development back to the west here into the Ozarks region will start to develop and push into portions of northeast Missouri, maybe getting into Illinois with time. Got to watch northern and central Illinois down into portions of southeastern Missouri. A few of these storms could be producing tornadoes, and a couple of these could be strong, long-track, violent tornadoes as well before it kind of grows upscale into more of a squall line or a QLCS type of line and pushes to the east here as we head into Thursday and starts to weaken off the eastern seaboard with another threat of severe weather, a marginal risk here on Thursday that I'll cover tomorrow here in tomorrow's video. A day one excessive rainfall outlook, a marginal risk of flash flooding from central Iowa here getting up into central northern Wisconsin, southeastern here Minnesota, including the Minneapolis-St. Paul region, getting up toward La Crosse, Dubuque, getting back toward Des Moines, Iowa, portions of, Dubuque, Iowa, getting back toward portions here of Kansas City, Missouri, and then towards Wichita. Then a slight risk zone of flash flooding, 10 to 20% here across Memphis, down into portions here near the Jackson area, Baton Rouge, and Little Rock as well. Then as we head into our Wednesday, we have a slight risk zone of flash flooding all the way up to the north here towards Chicago, Peoria, Illinois, Indianapolis, Nashville here, Louisville, St. Louis, Paducah, getting down towards Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson, Tennessee even as well, and here down towards Tupelo, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and getting down here towards Mobile, Alabama, and New Orleans as well. And then a day three excessive rainfall outlook here, some marginal areas around Panama City, getting up here into Mobile, and then a little zone here up into the northeast as well. So look at this, the next 120 hours of precipitation here, you can see an additional, 1 to 3 plus inches across most of the Tennessee valleys, the Ohio valleys, getting the lower Missouri valleys. A little less here up into the upper Midwest here, where storms will be more progressive in nature and not train over the same areas, but still could have a healthy ½ inch to 1.5 inches of rain across some of these zones, and then some moisture on the backside where a massive snowstorm here will be developing. And I'll talk about that right now. There is a blizzard warnings across northern portions here of the northern plains. Much of the state of North Dakota is under a blizzard warning. Also eastern portions here of Montana, northwestern portions of South Dakota with winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories surrounding that. And the GFS model is showing up to 35, 36 inches of snow across most of the state of North Dakota here, up to 3 feet of snow. So that is a lot of snow, even up to a foot around northwestern portions here of South Dakota back into Montana. And then here the same thing, not as you're bullish with the snowfall amounts, but still pretty high, around 2 feet here on the one of the Canadian models, the GDPS that I look at here, and then also on the NAM, the short-term model, showing 3 feet yet again of snow, maybe getting up close to 40 inches here on this model run into central and western portions of North Dakota. So some serious snow. Could be a historic blizzard, a historic April snowstorm across that area here. So be safe, everybody, here this week with the severe weather outbreak here. Be smart and do the right things here, and we'll get through this together. Be sure to like my video here and to leave any questions and comments below here. And do remember to subscribe to my channel, as I'll have weather-related content all spring and summer long to get you ahead of all the storms. So I hope everybody has a great and safe Tuesday out there.